YouTube, what's up? This is going to be a part two to the backwards compatibility game preservation video I just did, because there were some things that I left out. Very important stuff that I left out in terms of my thoughts and feelings when it comes to that stuff that I forgot to mention that I should have mentioned in the first video. Shout out to Pisces Princess 327. She actually inspired me to do this video too, because she definitely made sure I should have been clear on some of the stuff that I said, because I agree with her a lot when it comes to principles in gaming, for sure. Hopefully I said your name right. Hopefully I said Pisces Princess 327 and not Princess Pisces 327. I might have said that. I know I might have got that mixed up, but my whole thing I want to say is, when it comes to game preservation, is that I think there's two different kinds of game preservation. You got the kind that, you have the digital storefronts that these companies do, where you buy your games digitally from their store. And then you got the game preservation where it comes to the hardware, when it comes to that part, where, after a certain amount of time, your console don't work anymore because there's some sort of DRM built in the system, or, you know what I mean? The whole setup that Xbox has, where, you basically got to be online to check in order to play a lot of your digital games. Not digital games, physical games. When it gets to the point, I got this information from Modern Vintage Gamer, because I don't have an Xbox Series X to test this out. But I do believe that he's a very credible source when it comes to this information. He actually ran those tests during a store, and I'm sure that he wouldn't put his name out there and lie when millions of people got these consoles in their home and they can check for themselves to validate what he's saying. Because if that was the case, then MVG would be a liar, right? Because he actually did this video that actually, was talking about both PlayStation and Xbox DRM issues, consoles, to be more specific. DRM issues with PlayStation and Xbox consoles. And that is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how these DRM issues that's built inside of these consoles, that is like absolutely 100% not excusable. That's what I want to be clear on, that I didn't make clear in the first video. There's no way in hell I'm going to buy a system and I have to check in online in order to play my physical games. Like, that's crazy. I can understand the digital only because of the licensing issues, right? There's licensing. When you buy a digital game, there's a license. It's a license. You're buying a license to play. It's a permission to play it. It's not really the actual game itself. But when you buy a physical game, you have the game built, installed, put on the disc. You know what I mean? Bugs or not, the game is there and you can actually play it without bugs. Rarely, if I ever have played a game, right, that, you would notice if it didn't have the first update. Because a lot of these bugs, I don't think they stand out that bad. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Anyways, not to, keep talking about, going circles about that. But I do think in terms of gaming principles, I do believe that there is no way you can justify buying a system and having to have that system online, mandatory online, in order to validate whatever physical game you stick in there and play it. I think that is trash, and there's nothing that can excuse that. But as far as the digital store, I understand it's digitally, it's a licensed ran system. Even these companies paying licenses to have some of these games on their stuff. You know what I mean? Some of these, like the Def Jam games. There's a license that they had to get from Def Jam in order to put the songs, the characters, all of that on there. When those licenses expire, they can't sell the stuff no more, so they got to pull it out of the store. You know what I mean? And, your license expires when you buy a digital good from a store. The license expire. There's, what I'm saying? So you have to forfeit. If you can't get online for some reason, you have to forfeit. You can't play it. You know what I'm saying? Do I think that's necessarily right? No, I don't think that's right. I think it should. I think the game should be available and accessible forever, no matter. But when it comes to the legalities and all of this crap, and it just complicates things that shouldn't be complicated. But it's money, and that's just how it goes. So I feel like personally, be smart, protect yourself by buying these games physically, and then there should never be an issue. You know what I mean? Buy the games physically and there'll never really be an issue. Because at the end of the day, these companies, it's their right. They reserve the right, to pull these games digitally, do whatever they want with them. I do think that if you buy a game digitally, you should be able to re-download that game however many times you want, which they do. I can't recall buying a game digitally, because I have. And, years later down the line, I couldn't re-download the game, because that's not the case at all. As a matter of fact, I have just recently, not even a year ago, re-downloaded games that I purchased from the PlayStation Store back in 2006, 2007. Even demos, I can re-download them. I can't find them in the store anymore, but I can re-download them. So I think from that extent, I think that they actually honored, you know what I mean? They honored that. And I think that they should do that at the very least. If you purchase that digital game, you should be able to go back and re-download. You know what I mean? Another thing I want to speak on when it comes to this stuff is that when you buy these games digitally and for whatever reason you get kicked off or you lose your, account, your Xbox gamer tag, because maybe they feel like you infringed on some rights or whatever the case may be, you violated something, and they feel like, oh, PSN too, they feel like you violated some kind of code of conduct, and they could just destroy your online, your PSN or your gamer tag, right? You lose all of those digital games that you bought. All that money you spent, you lose all that. Knowing that by itself, why in the hell would you even risk it? Why would you even? Because that's like saying you foregoing all control over to these companies, to do whatever they want with whatever money you spent. Like, that's not cool at all. I would never. And that's another reason why I would never buy a digital game, especially if a physical game is available. I will make exceptions. I absolutely will. But I will never buy a digital game, a digital game if a physical game is. I will even wait. And there are games that came out digitally first, and they will push out the physical game 3 months down the line. Like Sifu. I'm waiting on Sifu because I'm not going to buy that game digitally if I can get the physical game. I don't care. Because I feel like you ain't going to tell me what I'm going to do with my purchase. You're not going to tell me. You're not. And personally, I feel like these services, they are worse than actually buying digital games. I would rather subscribe to a service than buy a game digitally. And I'm just going off of the principles of it. You know what I mean? Principles. That's all I'm talking about. So yeah, when it comes to digital versus physical, and then we're talking about game preservation and stuff like that, I think the only preservation that you really got when it comes to games is when you buy these games physically, because these companies have no moral obligation to keep these games in the stores or keep these stores open just to preserve games. I think the only time you should be able to preserve your games if these companies, and that's within the company's power, is if you spent your money on the games and then you can re-download them. And what they should be doing is if you somehow lose your account for whatever reason, because either you lost your own password and email, because that stuff happened too, right? Or they take your stuff away from you because they feel like you violated some kind of code of conduct, right? They still should be able to give you back the games that you purchased digitally. They should still be able to do that. Now that's preservation, but I think that the digital stores ain't preservation. I just think that is just, how they got their stuff set up. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to be clear on that. Shout out to everybody who subscribed to my channel, who made it to the end of the video, that show support, that comment on my videos. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate y'all. Really, humbly, from the bottom of my heart, I do. Because all I like to do is just talk games. Yeah, my opinion may come out, and my opinion on games can offend people, but it's my honest opinion. I'm not out here trying to make trouble. I ain't trying to do none of that stuff. I'm just trying to give you my honest opinion on what I think about gaming today versus what it used to be, and all kinds of other stuff. I love sharing my opinion on it. And I love listening to y'all's more than anything. I love listening to y'all opinions too. Reading y'all comments. That is real. That is 100% honest. Much love to y'all, man. Let me know what y'all think in the comments section, man. Rome, I'm gone.